I am so excited about tonight. And it's a curveball, ladies. It's something I haven't done quite like this before, so that'll be interesting. And have you loved studying the Proverbs 31 woman? I know. Okay, how many of you honestly weren't sure you really wanted to study this text when you came? It's the same, but I have just loved everything about this lady and every teacher that has shared with us this semester. So yeah, we did a deep dive to see what made this Proverbs 31 woman tick. And it's very interesting because I think we were dodging for a while. Week 1, I told you the why she does what she does, because she feared the Lord, adoring God, and avoiding what God hates, right? Week 2, Debbie Alsdorf told us about the who behind her whats, that she belonged to God. She was his. Week 3, last week, Janae revealed the how she did what she did. Impossible without the strength of the Lord in her mind, body, and spirit. And to be honest, we've avoided what she does. So this week we're going to look at the what's. And probably we didn't come in that front door with you because you're like, yeah, never going to happen. That's not possible. And to be very honest, the Sheologie Steering Committee has been studying this woman since we launched this Sheologie. We kind of had fun doing an exercise on our beautiful mind grease board that's on the window in our offices, and we said, let's deconstruct this woman. Let's say the things she does, and then let's try and reconstruct her and see what she would be like today. Like, does she knit? Knitting's cool, right? I mean, some people are doing it again. No, it's not cool, never will be cool. Okay, I went to a knitting group this last week, and it really was people in my demographic. Words mean things. And anyway, we're really cool, but none of our daughters thought so. So would she have done Pilates or DIY projects? Quite likely. Would she shop at pop-up shops or Trader Joe's, Walmart or Target? Would she eat organic, gluten-free, or keto? Because, she brought in good food for everybody. So would she own a vineyard in the south of France? Can I get an amen? No, I just want to be in the south of France. I don't need to own a vineyard, but she did have vineyards. So, that's just kind of a shock for some Christian ladies. But, okay, so did she have a vineyard in the south of France? Or maybe she owned a clothing line for Saks Fifth Avenue. Because we said her garments were linen and purple. They were some pricey things, and she sold those sashes. I told you when I taught, we kind of reduced her to like a president's wife or a Fortune 500 woman. Maybe she was like Joanna Gaines or Jessica Simpson or Michelle Obama. Hard to know, but she had it going on. Her husband sat in the city gates, which meant he was in the government. So that's okay, too. She had so many variables. Well, how many of you love Joanna Gaines and Magnolia? Oh, a lot. Oh, some of you not so much. Okay, I'm all right with that. But I do have to say, Joanna Gaines hasn't always been the Joanna Gaines. As a matter of fact, I was watching a reel the other day, and she came up, and she shared this raw testimony that she was raised by a Korean mother and an Anglo father. And in school, about elementary school, one day in lunch line, she realized she didn't look like the other girls. And what if people didn't like her? And what if she didn't make friends? And she ran to the bathroom and started sobbing. And she said that's the first time she believed the lie, who I am is not good enough. Clearly, she's pretty good. And she soon made friends, but the lie lurked underneath. She met Chip, a strong, funny, talented cowboy. They met at Baylor in business school, and he knew she had plans to open businesses. And they did. They opened a store, and then she had so many babies. And when the first batch of babies were there, she went, I can't run a store with all these babies. So she shut it down. She shut it down with tears. Who I am might not be good enough. Wow. And so the lie resurfaced. Well, I want to show you a little bit of her testimony from 2016. She went away with her husband, and this was at the beginning of the new year. We're still in January. No, we're not. It's February 1st, isn't it? Is it the 1st? Okay, so we're still in January. Take a look at Joanna Gaines and her testimony.
I remember as a little girl, my mom was Korean and my father was Caucasian, and I never knew there was anything different about myself until I started going to school. And I'll never forget an experience I had with the school lunchroom. You know, I remember standing there and seeing the sea of people. Felt like all eyes were on me, and I was thinking, you know, who's gonna be my friend? Who am I gonna sit with? I started walking through that lunchroom, and then I remember darting straight out, and I found a bathroom, locked myself in a stall. But in those moments is when I really believe that that's where the lie was sown, that who I wasn't good enough. You know, as we all do, I grew up and I grew out of the insecurities, had great friends, great childhood. And I remember in those times, I heard him specifically say, you know, Joanna, I have a calling for you. You're gonna have a platform one day. And I remember thinking, what does that even mean? And I remember hearing God say, Joanna, there's gonna come a time where I'm gonna say for you to go, and I'm gonna need you to step out and go. After graduating college, you know, a couple years later, I end up meeting this handsome, rugged cowboy who was hilarious, Chip Gaines. And we got married, and he knew that I had this whole thing of businesses that I wanted to start, but he also knew I was never gonna just take the risk and start them. I just dreamed about them. And he really encouraged me to step out and make one of those dreams happen. And we opened Magnolia Market together, and I loved it, you know, but at that time I was also pregnant with my second child, and I really felt like God was saying, hey, I want you home. I want you raising these babies at home at this age. And I remember the last day, you know, we're closing the shop down, and I'm crying because, again, I feel like it's the end of a dream. And I hear God say very clearly, he said, Joanna, if you trust me with your dreams, I'm gonna take Magnolia further than you could have ever dreamed. So just trust me. And I remember hearing that and feeling completely peaceful about it. And I walked away. Well, a couple years ago, we get this call from a production company, and they ask us to film a quick video of our family and what we do as a business, and that turned into the show that we have now. You know, Chip and I laugh. We look back and we just go, how did this all happen? And I remember last year in January, Chip and I took a trip to Arizona, and we were driving around and we found this really beautiful garden, and Chip said, I'm gonna drop you off here. I'm gonna give you about an hour, and I want you to kind of reflect on the year before and then just let God speak to you about what this next year is gonna look like. And he dropped me off, and I'm sitting under this tree, and I felt like God said, Joe, it's time. And I was like, time for what? And he said, it's time to reopen your store. And I said, I don't think I can do that. And just cool and calm, no, it's time. May of last year, we reopened the shop on Bosque, the little shop on Bosque. And now I look back and I go, God, your promise that you spoke years ago, I'm now seeing. I trusted you with my dream, and you've taken it far beyond what I could have ever dreamed or imagined. You know, I can look back now on the pattern of my life and really believe God has a purpose for me, but he also has a purpose for you. And on the other side of that is the enemy, where he knows where to hit. He knows to hit below the belt. He's gonna have that fear be, if you fail, and what if you fail in front of all these people? What if you fail and don't find someone in that lunchroom? What if your business fails? Whether it's you're staying home with your children and you're raising beautiful babies, or you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, let God speak into your life. Let his Father heart come and say, this is what I have for you. And I think that's the key, not believing the lies, fixing our eyes on Jesus and walking in that truth.
Ow. Someone who would have given up on her dreams, right? Remember I was talking about the lies and we need to confront the lies. And so Joanna took time to access and process her life, her goals, and allowed God speak into her life what's next. And I think you can do that every single year. You're not too old to find out what's next. And so I did that this year. I ran into Kay Woodward of Citizen Church. I love them. I love the church. I love those people. And she had this new journal that was called The Day Designer. And it was so cool. I was like, I have to have one. I mean, Kay's got one. And so I ordered this journal, not knowing it was like really intricate. It looked cool. I just didn't know it was going to set the bar so high. And one of the first things in the journal was something called a Venn diagram. How many have never heard of a Venn diagram? Thank you, because I hadn't either. And I was like, what am I? So, and I stayed home in my jammies one whole day when Skip was at church and was trying to fill in the Venn diagram. And it was, a little daunting. But so I want to show you a blank Venn diagram. Basically, it's intersecting circles that help you evaluate something and know what's different, what's the same, and kind of target in and focus on stuff. So you're going to have 2 Venn diagrams tonight. And I know that some of you have already checked out. You're like, I'm not doing, go ahead, be honest. You're kind of checking out. I'm not doing a Venn diagram, not happening. You, the non-knitter, is a yeah, you're a guardian, I promise you. Come to Maria next week, and she's going to explain that. But anyway, and just so that you don't check out, we're going to have fun. Here's a Venn diagram on making pancakes. Now look at this. If you have flour and milk, you can make batter. If you have eggs and milk, you can make an omelet. If you've got all 3, pancakes. Sweet spot is the pancakes. That wasn't so rough, was it? So let's look at the next Venn diagram. This is cat lovers and cardigans makes a cat lady. Any cat ladies out there? Okay, book lovers, cardigans are writers. But cat lovers, cardigan lovers, book lovers could be librarians. So see, she found her sweet spot with cardigans, cats, and books. That doesn't seem so threatening, right? She's in her sweet spot there. Let's do a little more humorous. Don't blow out because Jesus is in the middle. This is fun. Okay, so resurrected from the dead, converts many mindless followers as possible, would be zombies. Resurrected from the dead, local townspeople fear and revere, you would be Dracula. But if you're resurrected, have converts, and people love you, you could be Jesus Christ, right? So I was showing these to Skip and to Nathan, and they were like, ha, 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 ha. This is really funny. I showed the next one to Skip. He goes, that's me. He goes, I hate doing these things. I don't want to fit in these circles, and so I'm going to find my way around this. All right, how many Skips are out there? This is you now trying to find a path of escape. Now, when you watch movies, you have to do something that is a willing suspense of disbelief, unless you're against Skip. And he goes, that's not nighttime. They just changed the light. It's daytime. You're like, shh, I'm on the ride. That wouldn't happen. They can't do that. And I'm like, stop. I'm really watching this plot. You know what I mean? Do you have those people that sit next to you and ruin like every movie, whatever it is? I'm the person in the theater who laughs uncomfortably loud and blurts out things like, don't go in there. I am so deep diving into the moment. I am with them. And then, Skip blurts something out. So, Venn diagrams. I want you to open your Bibles to Proverbs 31 and turn to the side of your piece of paper that says, her calling, because we are going to Venn diagram the Proverbs 31 woman. Are you ready for this? You got pencils, you got paper, And so we want to start looking at her, and we're going to look at what her values are. Heads up, the last 3 teachers have told you what her values are. Little cheat sheet. Then you're going to look at her skills. Well, what are the things she did and she could do pretty good? And then we're going to look at her resources. What kind of things did she have at her disposal to do the things she was good at so that she could do them with her value system and find her sweet spot? So let's start with her values. And right up here, we have values. So based on what we've learned already about this woman, call out some of her values. Virtuous, wisdom, trustworthy. So I'm going to put that under a category of faith, that she was faithful, right? She was faithful to be virtuous. Also, when she had the fear of the Lord, she was, what did she do? Was she doing what God wanted her to do or not doing? Obedient. So then we want to put obedient on there. So we'll have faithful number 1, obedience number 2. Okay, what other values? If it was interpersonal, what values did she have with her husband, her kids? How do you feel toward your family? Love. There you go. That's easy. Love's a value. As a matter of fact, my friend Jen Santiago, love is her biggest value. Okay, well, there were others in her life. It wasn't just all me, me, me. I'm the princess, Disney princess of my world. So what other entities were values in her life? Fear of the Lord, that's good. Trust. Remember what Debbie said? She had her people. She had family, husband, friends in the community, people. Okay, whatever she did it really well. And what would that require? What? Confidence. I love that. Talent, good. Sacrifice. Confidence, talent, sacrifice, I'm going to call hard work. Serving. Yes, good. And we learned from Janae last week, she had strength in the Lord. She valued the strength in the Lord. And I would say another one we could add, if you don't mind pulling out the fear of the Lord. Number 7 can be strength in the Lord. Number 5, if you don't mind backing up, we have people backstage. I would say that that would be business ethics, that she had business ethics. So I'm just listening to you and I'm putting my words. All the words are right words. However you want to fill out your Venn diagram. So my Venn diagram has faith, obedience, love, people, hard work, strength in the Lord, and business ethics. So we're going to let them catch up. We're going to move to skills, and I want you to think about some of the things she did in this text. What did she do? I'm sorry, what? She made garments, I agree. So I'm going to say she could sew, weave, and have tapestry. So any of those categories was that she could make garments. Anything else that she could do? Provide food. So I'm going to say that she had this real estate. Remember, she could buy fields, sell fields, and she grew stuff on it. So I'm going to say real estate. So down below, we have she can sew. Number 1. Number 2 is real estate. What else were her skill set? Farmer. Marketing, yes, because she went and sold them at market, right? She saw the ships from afar. So marketing, real estate, we had sewing and marketing. So can you see anything else there? Very good. You know what I'm going to call that? Interpersonal relationships. That's called a soft set of skills. Sometimes you want to hire people that have soft skills that they can work with other people. And they're the ones that take in the calls that are the troubled calls. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe your iPhone did that. Let me just walk you through if they have interpersonal skills, right? So I'm going to add that. So what do we have so far? Real estate, sewing, marketing, interpersonal relationships. I put design on here because she could design these garments. She designed the tapestries. She designed the clothes. So, yeah, artistic, very good. So she designed the clothes. I think she's also incredibly organized. She has organizational skills. Right now, my family's in crisis, and my sister cries really good, and my brother gets mad really good, but I organize. When a crisis happens, I'm there, Johnny, on the spot. How are we? We'll get the food, we'll get the this, we'll get the that. And they're, doing the other things, but organization is in my skill set. One other one that we said before that was her value, but I'm going to say it's a skill, is wisdom. Because there's a difference between wisdom and knowledge, right? Knowledge is knowing things. Wisdom is knowing what to do with the things you know. And she was very wise in all of her dealings, right? So look at this. We have her values, we have her skills. Now, let's look at her resources. Was she poor? Oh, so what's one of the resources? Yeah, okay. And what else did she have on her hands? She had people who could help her. What would we call those people that help her in this text? Maidservants. How many of you would like some maidservants? Assistants. I always say I could be a movie star if I had a personal trainer and a nanny and a personal chef, and I could do all those things if I just had some people to help me do the things. So she had money, she had assistants. Go ahead. The Lord is a beautiful resource. But I would say, even though it's a resource, it's also a value, right? It kind of jumps up to her faith that is in there. Can you see anything else tangible that she had? It kind of goes back to the real estate, but she had some tangible properties, vineyards, farms, fields, however you want to say that. So we have money, maidservants, fields. I would say she also had time. How many of you have that in your life? You could do a whole lot more, but because she had her maidservants, she had time. So she had money, time, maidservants, fields. I'm going to help a girl out. Her husband sat in the city gates. What did that mean for her if she's married to a guy like that? Yes, she had access to power. She could access the government. So she had money, time, assets, maidservants, fields, vineyards. Fields, vineyards is, together. And then government connections. So ladies backstage, you have money, maidservants, fields, vineyards, times, assets, government, and money, time, assets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you know what? I skipped a 4 in here. You're all like, what else is there? It's not on my list, so tell me something else she has. Ministry. I love that. Yes. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Because that's what we need to look at next from our text. That is exactly, you are the best ever. So, we're going to move to that, but let's try and put these funny circles here together. And I'm going to do it with you. So, if you have values thus and skills thus, you could be a business owner, right? You have values and skills, you have work ethic, you have organization, you have marketing. We might call her a girl boss, right? Yeah, she could be an influencer, For sure. Now, if you have values and resources, what could you be? You got a lot of money and faith-based values. Yes, it's what we're doing in our small breakthrough sessions. You could be a humanitarian, philanthropist, what we'll call them as do-gooders, right? So she could be a business owner, girl boss, a humanitarian do-gooder. What if she has her skills like design and sewing, and she has resources? What would this possibly be? I'm thinking artist, designer, graphics, entrepreneur. Okay, so we're going to just call this artsy or art/designer, and I would say she's a free spirit. So you've got a girl boss, a do-gooder, and a free spirit. Now, we want to eventually come here to find out what would put all of this together to find her sweet spot. All of those things are great and good, but could they come together for what we would call her calling? And so I want to back up a little bit. All of those callings seem amazing, but not ideal. Because if you had values and skills and you were a business owner, you could end up being unsuccessful because you're not bringing in some of your resources. If you don't have money to back up your business, you might end up being unsuccessful. If you have skills plus resources and you become an artist or a designer, but that could end up being unmeaningful under business owner. So this could be, we said unsuccessful, unmeaningful, business owner unsuccessful, artist designer could be unmeaningful, a humanitarian do-gooder, if you use all your sources and all your values, it's unsustainable. You'll eventually give it all away. And so all of them are good, but all of them could have flaws. So the business owner girl boss could end up being unsuccessful. The humanitarian do-gooder could end up being unsustainable. And the artist designer could end up being unmeaningful. So, what are we looking for? Her life boiled down to God and others. And that's kind of scriptural, right? Didn't Jesus say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind? This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbors as yourself. All the law and prophets hang on this. So Jesus said you could, irreducible minimum of the Christian life, love God, love others. So that's what he's encouraging us to find our calling in loving God and loving others and expressing it with the things that we have. Now, if you look back to the Proverbs 31 woman, what I was supposed to cover tonight is her sweet spot, which was helping others, helping the poor. Consider that your career may not be your calling. And a lot of us miss that. We pursue a career, but it's unsatisfying because we're not fulfilling what maybe Christ made us for our calling. The job provides the money to do what God called her to do, love others. She perceives that her merchandise is good, it says. And then that led her to do good things for others. She extends her hands to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. In verse 20, her business allowed her to bless others by doing good. And that must be included in any of our destinies because God made you on purpose and for a purpose, right? That's one of Calvary's axioms. Good works is one of the reasons you were created. You want to say that with me? Good works is one of the reasons I was created. And I'll tell you where you can find that text in Ephesians 2:10. It says, "We are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which he prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." He made you on purpose for a purpose, and that purpose was good works. And not only did he know you were going to do good works that would vary based on your values and your skills and your resources. It's going to look different. Every Proverbs 31 woman looks different. Not only did he make you individually on purpose for a purpose to do good works, he created them in advance. Remember I said you could find God's will? What if God made you in advance, like the Utash family, and they have resources, they have values, and they have skills, and so they went to Kenya to help women that don't make money to sell their things so that they could find a sweet spot in their calling. Do you see where I'm going with that? How you can connect those all together. Now, when he says, we are his workmanship, created in Jesus for good works. The word workmanship is a Greek word, poema. It literally means poem or work of art. God created you on purpose for a purpose to do good works that are beautiful. If you want to know the artist, creative, designer heart of God, that's the kind of art he's looking for. You might say when you're performing good works, you are poetry in motion. Isn't that beautiful? I love our outreach breakthrough group, the philanthropy, because they're going to convalescent homes and they're going to visit different areas in our city and bring comfort. They are poetry in motion when they're doing those good works. Now, good works don't have to be big and flashy. You don't have to do a pop-up, but that might be your skill set. They can be really understated. The widow of Zarephath gave bread to the hungry. Martha opened her home with hospitality. It's okay if you're a stay-at-home mom and mother and you're hospitable. My bestito, Fran Byrne, and Murray Byrne were the most hospitable people I've ever met. Amen, May Ellen? If you've been to a Byrne party, they used to allow the youth group of over 100 people to meet in their backyard every week. Would you even let 10 teenagers in your house? Let alone 100? And let them run amok doing all the crazy things youth group, like eating Peeps and, I don't know, whatever it is they do, the Byrnes would do it, right? Because hospitality was high on their values. They had a huge home and their resources with a big backyard, and they were funny and could play guitar and had counseling abilities. So when you're Murray and Franny Byrne, your sweet spot's hospitality. And that's just perfect for that person. Mary of Magdalene opened her box of fragrant ointment. She took her biggest treasure to wash the feet of Jesus. And Jesus said, what you do to the least of these, you've done to me. If you go to a prison, to a hospital, it's your abuelito, and you wash her feet and rub them with oil and comfort her. That's valuable. Maybe you're a nurse. Maybe your skills are people. Maybe your skills are comfort and you don't throw up needles and blood. And you belong in a hospital. But you can see how all of those start moving toward that sweet spot. Finally, Dorcas, if you remember Dorcas the daisy from Wildflowers, she too had needles and fabric. And when she died, everybody came and said, look at the clothes she made for us. I had a grandma that made my first homecoming dress. Can't say it was my best homecoming dress because she told me to pick out the pattern and the fabric. Big mistake. And it was adequate, but a mistake I would never make again. But Grandma made my first homecoming dress. Oh, Little House on the Prairie, right? Here we go. Christians have different core values than non-believers. Secular people may believe that fortune and fame equal success, but Jesus said, "What shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul?" So we're looking at all these things about the Proverbs 31 woman, or you're going to put all the things about your life. But if your goal is only success, and your goal is only fame, and your goal is only, the best teacher award, it's short-sighted. There's more to it than that. James put it like this, and she did good. She extended her hand to the poor. Listen to this. I hope you underline this. James 4:17. Therefore, to her who knows to do good and does not do it, to her it is sin. James was the first book I read as a new believer, and I cried through most of the book because James focuses on the poor and on others and how we should be doing for others. Imagine how different this ministry, this church, this city would be if everybody did good for others. If we really loved God and others the most. That yes, we had our jobs, we have to work 9 to 5, we make the money, but our calling may not be that. The calling may be somewhere else. Or you bring the calling to work, and you pray for people at work. You bring them baked goods at work. You invite them for Christmas and share the gospel with them. Just broaden your horizon to include the value system that God says each one of us should have. Ladies, we cannot wait until our kids are grown to do good. We must not delay until we're retired to do good. We're supposed to do good at every season, for every reason in our lives. When I was in mid-high, I was a candy striper at the hospital. You know what I got to do? Change bedpans and dirty sheets. I was in school. I was a cheerleader. I got good grades, but on the weekends, I changed bedpans and dirty sheets, thus making me more fulfilled. When I was in my college days, I went street witnessing with YWAM. Sure, I was studying fashion merchandising, and I wanted to be a designer, but I still went street witnessing to make sure that I was fulfilling all that God had called me to. And when Skip and I first got married, I went down to an ATM one night. Why? Because dinner was on the stove. I can't remember. And a homeless guy was there, and I brought him home for dinner. And Skip was like, "What?" And then he didn't have a place to sleep, so I said, "Can he sleep here?" I do not recommend this. I don't know how we slept that night with our little boy in his bedroom and a homeless guy in the guest room. I don't know, but I don't have strong boundaries, Jen. I've mentioned this to you. My boundaries are weak. That's why I married Skip. He has very strong boundaries. And this one time he relented. So what can you do with what you have? What can you do? If you've got those resources and you've got these abilities and you have these values, what would your Venn diagram look like, and what could you do with what you have? I want to tell you about a lady named Champel Anderson. Every day around 2:30 in the afternoon, a familiar sight pops up on the street in St. Louis neighborhood. Champel Anderson, 48 years old. We have a picture. Oh, that blesses me. Nobody knows her. She's not ever going to be famous. Maybe she will, I don't know. I pray she is. She can be Joanna Gaines. She sets food on a table outside of her home, and every afternoon for the next 3 hours, kids from Anderson's neighborhood run from school buses to her home to get something to eat because they don't have enough food. And she says they'll keep coming till 7 at night and maybe get a second meal because they don't have dinner either. She feeds 100 children a day. An online fundraising effort for Anderson raised $25,000, more than her original $1,500 goal, to help buy food supplies. This is a quote from her. "I didn't have a great childhood. It was pretty rough. I don't want any other kid to go through that." This is a stay-at-home lady who puts out a table in her neighborhood. So, therefore, to her who knows to do good and does not do it is sin. You were created on purpose for a purpose. You are his workmanship, his poem, created to do good works that he made in advance for you. It's so awesome when we break it down. I'm going to share one other scripture in Ezekiel 16:49, and this is kind of hard to listen to and absorb. But in Ezekiel 16:49, God condemns Sodom. Remember what happened to Sodom? What happened to Sodom? It was destroyed. Why was it destroyed? Sin. What was the sin? Homosexuality. Listen to this verse. "Now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. They were haughty and did detestable things before me. Therefore I did away with them, as you have seen." Is God equating homosexuality as bad as not helping the poor? A lot of us want to march with pickets or make statements or put something on our Instagram or stand up, and that's all good. But what good are you doing? Skip always says, "Don't shout at the darkness, light a candle." And I wish Christians would light more candles, because that's the kind of thing the world looks at, the world sees, and they go, "I want to be like that. I want to be like Champel Anderson," because Christians do stuff like that. Doing good. So let's go back to Joanna Gaines, right? Man, she's got it going on. She's got a magazine and restaurants and fixer-uppers, and now she's got like a construction division, and I mean, yes, please, God, can I be Joanna Gaines? I mean, we would all maybe say that. Let's go back. She and Chip may be multimillionaires with trust that will provide for their families generations to come, but they're also Christians. Their top priority has always been love God, love others. Others, Fox News ran an article last year, just at Thanksgiving, 2 months ago. Chip and Joanna Gaines are on a mission to resolve the nation's housing crisis amid their growing empire. That's a sweet spot. That's a sweet spot. The couple said, "The whole objective would be for us to be 80 and not say to ourselves, well, we've built trust for our great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, and now they're taken care of. To the contrary, we would prefer to be on the rocking chairs on our front porch saying, I'm proud of the impact I made here." Wow, so good. They had their priorities straight for a long time. They said the intention, quote, has been the same from the beginning. We care about people. We care about the time they spend with us, and we hope that they leave inspired to do whatever is that spark of joy in their life. But now they want to strike joy in the hearts of homeless people. There's a homeless church that's been meeting 4 blocks from the silos. 4 blocks from like paradise, a Disneyland for homemakers. that we all mecca to Magnolia so we can buy a tea towel to say, I've been in touch with Joanna Gaines. Anyway, 4 blocks away, there's a homeless church that's met under a bridge on a freeway for 26 years. That's insane. They went to Baylor University. It's where they met. And a professor from Baylor who teaches theology does a church for the homeless on the weekend. So was he smart? Was he wise? Did he have values? Did he have skills? Did he have resources? Did he make money being a professor? But what he does on the weekend is have church for homeless people. 26 years. Pastor Durrell found out that the city was going to plow down their church because they're expanding the freeway. And it was in the paper, and Chip read the paper, and he said, I need to do something. And he called Pastor Durrell, whom he remembers from college, and said, move your homeless church, your tent city, the poor, the needy, the masses on the street with shopping carts and signs, and meet on Sundays at the silos on my property. Would you invite the homeless to your property? Chip and Johanna said, we're not open on Sundays, come meet. And if some people who are coming to the silos for photographs when we're not open, maybe they'll come to church too with the homeless. You know, Christians have done some of the most amazing things in history. Most hospitals were started by Christians. Just let that settle in. It's an altruistic Christian invention. The word didn't even exist until they did one. Hospital, hospitality, the values of hospitality. In the 4th century AD, newly Christianized Roman Christians built hospitals, hospices, and highly specialized places for poor people. That's how hospitals started. By the 8th century, the function of Christian hospitals grew and became even better. Some served the sick, some the needy, some lepers, some the insane. I know a lot of the homeless problem is mental illness problems. And I know somehow we feel justified. We're not going to help them because they're crazy and they're doing drugs. Sorry. Most hospitals have been started by Christians. And did you know that most universities had beginnings with Christians? So education. Many of America's and England's oldest universities were established by religious institutions. Many colleges in the United States that started over 300 years ago were Bible-proclaiming schools. Harvard and Yale were Puritan schools, and Princeton was Presbyterian. Same with Oxford and Yale. Oxford and, I don't know. Cambridge, thank you. Pretty amazing. Do you know that we have been feeding the homeless forever, Christians? As a matter of fact, not too far away in Arizona, the first food bank in the United States was launched by a Christian man named John Van Hengel. And in the 60s, as a retired businessman, he volunteered at a soup kitchen and saw a mother going through a trash can at a grocery store for her children. And the mom said, I wish there was a place we could get food to take home. And thus began the first food bank. The first year, they gave away 275,000 pounds of food. That was in the 60s. By 1977, there were 18 cities across the country that had food banks. It just takes one retired guy with a great thought and a passionate heart to take all the things together and put him in the sweet spot, in the core, in the calling of his life. I love this. Wesley said, do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. Wow. So, you were made on purpose for a purpose. And a lot of it's different. Hospitality, design, organization, whatever it is, you be you, girl. You do you. But don't forget, you were made to do good works in your sweet spot. So let's go back to our graph and say this would be her epic sweet spot, right? Epic win, when she can put all those together. I'm not going to tell you what she did with that because you see what she did with all of that. Just like Joanna Gaines, just like Champale Anderson. You can all find your sweet spot. I have a feeling I'm over time, and you have another side of your sheet, which I hoped I could do with you, but I want you to take it home, and I want you to pray about it. And I want you to ask the Lord, what is your will for my life? How did you make me on purpose for a purpose? What are my values? What are my skills? What are my resources? And what is God calling me to do with what I have? And I can promise it will be very, very good. Amen? Amen. Lord, thank you because you designed us, you made us in your image. And that image is like snowflakes and fingerprints. We're all different. Joanna Gaines is not better than Champale Anderson. They're doing what you made them to do with what you gave them, Lord. And I pray you'd inspire the women here to assess their lives and ask you, how can you use me? What is my calling? What is my sweet spot? And I pray that amazing things will crop up in the women's ministry, in our church, in the city, in the world, through what you are willing to do in them and through them. In Jesus' name, amen.